Today we are reviewing a book called The 48 Laws of Power. It is quite popular among American politicians, officials, celebrities, such as 50 Cent, and prisoners. We debated for a long time whether to do this review, because the book teaches how to manipulate other people. Some of the laws presented are truly immoral, and I personally do not recommend applying them in real life, but such laws can be applied by others to you. Therefore, I will share with you only the useful chapters that can be useful in everyday life or help you defend yourself against manipulators. Law 1. Never outshine the master. Always make sure that those in leadership positions feel comfortable at the top. In your desire to please them or impress them, don't go too far in demonstrating your talents. Otherwise, you risk achieving the opposite, instilling fear and insecurity in them. For example, you are 20 years old and have started a new job. Your boss is 30. After a few months, you realize that you know more than your boss and have a couple of great ideas for developing your department or team. In such a situation, never show your superiority. People in leadership positions cannot tolerate appearing weak or powerless in the eyes of their subordinates. Your brilliant ideas are a direct threat to the manager and his position. He may smile at you and pretend to support your ideas, but rest assured that at the first opportunity, he will replace you with a less intelligent employee. Always remember that you work for your boss. And if you really want to present your ideas to him, do it in such a way that your superiors look their best. Smart, judicious, and kind, even if you know that this is not the case. With this approach, they will not see you as a threat and will most likely support your initiative. There are many examples of this. Surely everyone has a friend who tried to argue in class and show that they were smarter than the teacher. Nevertheless, no one was in a hurry to give them a good grade. Law 2. Don't trust your friends unconditionally. Learn to use your enemies. The key to power is the ability to recognize who is best able to protect your interests in any situation. Be friends with your friends, but work with experienced and competent people. This is especially true if you are working on a serious project. Under no circumstances should you involve your friends. It is better to hire a former enemy. They will be more loyal than a friend because they have something to prove to you. The author of the book argues that friends are more to be feared than enemies. Friends are more likely to be jealous and betray you. They also limit your power because it is more difficult to maintain a professional distance with them. Friends will not always be honest with you, and it is very difficult to understand their true intentions. People generally tend to think that they have achieved everything on their own. Therefore, your friend may easily ignore your help and claim that they achieved everything themselves. Law 4. Always say less than seems necessary. The more you want to appear smart, the higher the chance that you will say something ridiculous. Influential people tend to speak little. This is where their power and influence lie, because no one knows what they are thinking. This is especially true in negotiations or interviews. Always watch what you say. Don't say more than you should, or it may backfire. If you are talking to a strong negotiator, you will see that they speak little. They will briefly express their point of view and then remain silent for a while to give you a chance to speak. Silence is uncomfortable. It makes you feel uneasy. I'm sure you've noticed how, during a conversation, sooner or later there comes a moment when you both stop talking and there is silence. An uncomfortable moment. In such a case, you are ready to say anything just to fill this awkward pause. Sometimes you even say something completely unrelated to the topic of conversation, just to keep the conversation going and avoid the discomfort of silence. The result may be that you reveal too much about yourself and lose your influence in the eyes of your conversation partner. Law 9. Achieve victory through action, not argument. It is much more effective to get others to agree with you by acting without saying a word. Show, don't explain. The famous sculptor Michelangelo was working in his studio. When the sculpture was almost complete, he was visited by the mayor of Soderini, who said, "You have done an excellent job, but the nose is a little too big." Michelangelo knew that the nose was fine. Soderini just needed to show his importance, but instead of arguing with the mayor, he pretended to start correcting the shape of the sculpture's nose. Tapping with his tools, he simply kicked up dust. pretending to work. Then Michelangelo said, "All right, now step back and see if everything is in order." Verbal arguments, even if the reason has been exhausted, still leave an unpleasant aftertaste with the interlocutor. Therefore, strive for victory through actions, not arguments. Law 10. Infection. Avoid unhappy and unlucky people. Other people's misfortunes can be disastrous for you. Emotional states are as contagious as diseases. You may think that you are saving a drowning person, but in fact you are only bringing your own misfortune closer. Unhappy people sometimes bring trouble upon themselves and then bring it upon you. It's like helping a friend who keeps ending up behind bars. You think you're helping him, but you're just infecting yourself with his misfortune. Instead, stay close to the lucky and happy ones. Law 13. When asking for help, appeal to people's self-interest, not their mercy or generosity. If you have to ask someone for help, don't try to remind them of the good deeds you once did for them. Your interlocutor will find a way to ignore it. Instead, let them see the benefit for themselves and emphasize that. They will enthusiastically support a proposal that promises benefits for themselves. When we started creating these videos, we asked our friends to evaluate our work. Once I called a friend and asked if he could spare 10 minutes to evaluate my video. As soon as he picked up the phone, he started making excuses that he was too busy and very tired. I realized that the conversation wasn't going anywhere, so I changed the subject. "Yes, of course, no problem. We can discuss it later. By the way, I heard that you're planning to buy investment property. Would you like to meet for a cup of coffee and discuss it? I could give you some advice." After a short pause, he asked a few questions about the apartment he had purchased. A few hours later, we were sitting and drinking coffee. I told him about investing in real estate and then asked him to review my videos. Now, of course, he agreed and appreciated my work. On the one hand, you might think this is manipulation, but I prefer to call it rephrasing a request. People are selfish by nature. You either accept it or you don't. No matter what task you face, our mind always asks, "How does this benefit me personally?" If there is no benefit, you won't want to take any action. Keep this law in mind, especially when asking for help from someone more experienced and knowledgeable. Such people will not waste their time. Therefore, first find out what they do and how you could help them solve a particular problem. Offer your solution in exchange for what you want to get from this person. Law 28. Get started without hesitation. If you're not sure how things will turn out, don't start. Your doubts and hesitations will mess things up. Being timid is dangerous. It's better to make a bold move right away. Any mistakes you make due to overconfidence can be easily corrected with even more confidence. Everyone admires the bold. You won't achieve much with timidity. A few years ago, a friend of mine interviewed for a job in which he was, to put it mildly, not a professional. Surprisingly, he got the job. When I asked him how he did it, he replied, "I didn't know the answers to some of the questions, but I showed the employer that, if necessary, I would figure out any issue and be the best employee in the department." A few months later, he met the manager who had interviewed him again. The manager said, "The only reason I hired you is because you showed courage and fearlessness during the interview. You clearly lacked qualifications. Most people in your position wouldn't even have dared to come to the interview." Law 36. Disregard what you cannot possess. Ignoring is the best form of retaliation. If you acknowledge a problem, you give it the right to exist. The more attention you give to your adversary, the stronger they become. When you begin to correct a minor mistake, it becomes a major one. Sometimes it is better to leave things as they are. If you want something but cannot have it, simply ignore it. The less interest you show, the more unattainable you will seem. When you acknowledge your enemies, even to oppose them, you fall under their influence. By ignoring them, you destroy them. This infuriates them and throws them off balance, but since you don't care, there's nothing they can do. Law 40. Reject free lunches with contempt. Nothing is given to us for free. There is usually a cunning trick or hidden obligation behind it. Always pay the full price. That way you don't have to thank, blame, or deceive anyone. Free can be the most expensive word. Whenever you are tempted by a freebie, be careful. We all know where the free cheese is. There is a message behind a free offer. For example, you stand in line for an hour for a product that costs $2. Do you think you got it for free? You just paid for it with an hour of your time. Was the delivery really free? Of course not. It's just hidden in the price of the product. Law 41. Try not to follow in the footsteps of great people. The original always seems better and more appropriate than what comes after. If you are the successor to a great person or come from a noble family, it will be difficult for you to repeat their achievements. Instead, create your own name and personality. For example, you got a new job and found out that the former employee in your position was one of the company's best workers. Can you imagine how difficult it will be for you to succeed in this position? The former employee set the bar very high. People expect you to meet the same high standards. You will need to work twice as hard to stand out or come up with something of your own so that you are not compared to your predecessor. The second option is more suitable for a newcomer. Therefore, the best way to succeed is to be unique. But be careful. The past is valuable experience, and it is illogical to destroy everything and build something completely new. Law 45. Preach the need for change, but don't get too carried away with reforms. Deep down, everyone realizes the need for change, but people are driven by their habits. They like to do what they are used to doing. They may not like radical changes, which will lead to irritation and resistance. If you have been promoted to a managerial position and are trying to organize your staff's work but don't know where to start, always refer to your past experience. And if changes are necessary, make sure they are unobtrusive and presented to employees as an upgrade of their accumulated experience. Law 46. Never appear too perfect. People hate it when someone is better than them. Appearing better than others is always dangerous, but pretending that you have no flaws or weaknesses is even worse. Envy breeds silent enemies. Therefore, it is sometimes worth showing your imperfections to ward off the envy of those around you. Only a small percentage of people manage to achieve success. Be that as it may, there will always be envious people around successful people. If you find yourself at the pinnacle of success, you should be wary of your friends and acquaintances who are less fortunate than you. So, we have looked at the most interesting laws of power. Before putting them into practice, think everything through in advance or read the book in its entirety to better understand the essence of the examples given. These are not just words, but truly powerful laws of communication that can backfire if used thoughtlessly. Let's say you try to look thoughtful and important by remaining silent during a conversation. But your silence may give your conversation partner reason to think that you are hiding something and make you look suspicious. Therefore, everything should be approached wisely. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video. Subscribe to Chapters and Capitals, where every story of money has a soul.